Hey, welcome back, everybody. Mark from Rams Up here. I'm going to be all over the place, sharing a bunch of random thoughts and observations. And before I get started, I did mess up talking about a player who wore number 51. I discussed Blair Bush, a Rams offensive lineman, and I said he was a starter there for the Rams in his 3-year career there. That was actually Bernd Brostek. That was a starter, and Blair Bush, I guess, was a long snapper, something like that. A gentleman pointed out that mistake on the YouTube channel, so I stand corrected. But they both were from the University of Washington, interestingly. So that was Bernd Brostek as a starting center. Blair Bush, still very noteworthy career, 17 years in the league. That's pretty amazing. So it is episode 752 on the podcast, and I've talked about a couple players already who wore number 52. One of my favorite players, Alec Ogletree. I just loved his willingness to interact with fans, and specifically my son, twice. He's a very gregarious, fun guy. And then, of course, one of the more famous players in Rams history for the play, the tackle, Mike Jones. This episode, I wanted to talk about outside linebacker Terrell Lewis. And by the way, there are a lot of noteworthy Rams that wore this number. So I'll be spending a few hundred episodes. It'll be a few hundred episodes before I get through all of them. But Terrell Lewis, he was a highly regarded outside linebacker in college, and then tore his ACL right before his junior year. So he took a year off, medical red shirt, and I don't think he ever really reached that same level of athleticism, the twitch. I think it was a little bit missing, but the Rams took a shot at him in the third round of the 2020 draft, and he played 3 years for the Rams, 6 sacks, played in 30 games, played in a Super Bowl. But the Rams eventually waived him late in the 2022 season. He tried to catch on with the Bears, Saints, and Eagles, and it didn't work out. But Terrell Lewis, there was times there where he, you started to see that spark maybe, and you started to get a little bit hopeful. I think he had one stretch, 3 straight games with a sack. And, it was just too bad for him that I think he lost, I wouldn't say a step, but just that extra burst, and he could never get it going at the NFL level, not at least the way we had hoped. But not a bad player, just that injury was really a setback for him. Now, I wanted to talk about, something Quentin Lake said, and he was talking about how this Rams offense, it's the greatest show on turf or the greatest show on sand or greatest show on turf part 2. And, he's just, having fun and admiring his offense, I guess, across the practice field. But I got to thinking about it. And, this offense skill positions does stack up pretty well. Now, we don't have an Orlando Pace, but we have some pretty good offensive linemen. And we don't have an Adam Timmerman, but we have a Kevin Dotson. But from the skill positions, this team stacks up pretty well. Warner versus Stafford, I think most Ram fans at this point prefer Stafford, I think. Now, Falk and Kyren, big difference there. Falk has the juice, he's a great receiver as well, super intelligent player. Not that Kyren isn't that, but Kyren doesn't have that special, that special thing that Falk had going on for him. I don't know how to quantify it, but Falk was one special dude. Now, Kyren might be better as far as a nose for that extra 2 yards for the first down of the end zone. But Falk, it surpasses him in almost every other way, especially in the receiving game. Both great blockers. But then you get to the receivers, Isaac Bruce versus Devontae, different types of receivers, but I'd have a tough time deciding which one I would take in their prime. Right now, we'll have to see what Devontae really brings to the table, but pretty hopeful. Holt versus Puka. Now, Holt has, a long, deep resume. Puka isn't quite there yet, but dang, I don't know, man. Puka holds up pretty well, just in their prime, one guy versus another guy. I'm not saying, Puka is a greater receiver than Holt. Just, think about this, though. In their prime, running out there for one game, which one you want? It's a debate to be had. Then there's Oz Hakim versus Tutu. That's a coin flip probably there. And then Ricky Prohl versus Jordan Whittington. And we'll have to see about Whittington, but now the greatest show on turf, they got it done for 3, 4, 5 years at a very, very high level. And Orlando Pace, Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, all in the Hall of Fame. So I'm just saying, Quentin, pump the brakes on it a little bit, but I see where you're coming from. Now, what else do we got? I don't know what's coming here. What do I have next? I wanted to talk about the offensive line because, they signed David Quisenberry. Man, I want to say Dan Quisenberry so bad. And, I felt a sense of relief that we had added to the offensive line. But are we okay with the state of this offensive line? I think the starters were fine. Alaric Avila, Shelton, Dotson, and Big Rob. I'm hoping Shelton answers the bell, but we have to see that. He was a decent center when he was here. And then the backups, time will tell if McClendon and Quisenberry and Leviston. You know what? I left AJ Curry off here. If you're looking on the YouTube channel, so shame on me. I think the leading candidates for the backup tackle positions are McClendon and Quisenberry. And, it's not like every team can just stack up 10 deep on the offensive line and give it a giant thumbs up. I get it. But hopefully McClendon and Quisenberry can step in and fill that role at left or right tackle for a couple of games without getting our quarterback killed, is all I'm saying. I think we're a little bit better on the interior. Bo Lemmer, Justin Dedich, Willie Lampkin. Talk about him more in a minute. And then Dylan McMahon. I think a lot of promise there. So, overall, I feel better with Quisenberry at it, but I'm still a little bit worried if one of our key guys go down up front. And I'm knocking on wood right now. It ain't gonna happen. It isn't gonna happen, but hopefully Sean McVay knows what he's doing as far as these backup offensive linemen go. And by the way, one of the reasons I brought this up is I was shared on somewhere. It was Yahoo. I was going to say Yahoo or Sports Illustrated that our offensive linemen are getting some love finally. A little bit of love anyway. Pro Football Focus rates Alaric Jackson as the 19th best tackle in the NFL and Big Rob as the 28th. So not too shabby. They're at least both in the top half. Okay, moving onward. And, I had that poll, if you saw it on the YouTube channel, what would you be least surprised by? And I had 4 options. One of them, 3 or more undrafted rookies making this team. And I got to thinking about it, I think 3 will make it. I really do. I wouldn't bet a lot of money on that, but I have a feeling it's going to happen. 2 at least. And the leading candidates I have sharing here on the YouTube channel, we all know we're all already big supporters of inside linebacker Sean Dolak, a guy that just plays football the way it's supposed to be played. Lacks all the measurables, just tackles everybody in sight. Offensive guard Willie Lampkin, a guy that was at Lance Zierlein or Daniel Jeremiah. One of them said that he had the best guard tape in the entire NCAA last season. A little undersized, though. I'd love to see him make this team. And then I just have a sneaky suspicion that the Rams are going to take a long look at safety Nate Valcarcel, who's the 5th safety. I think there will be a 5th safety, and it could end up being John Johnson. It could be Tanner Engel, or it could be Valcarcel. And I just talked about my concern about the offensive line. Not really a big concern. We're all still traumatized from a couple of years ago, right? But offensive tackle Trey Wettig, he's a guy that I thought would get drafted and did not. So I think he's got a shot. How many offensive linemen the Rams going to carry if they get to 10? And don't tell me that's not going to happen, because it has happened in the past. They've gone 8, they've gone 9, they've gone 10. If there's 10, Wettig could have a shot. Now, some brief news items. Apparently, Ian and I were really doubting whether the Rams really made a push to trade up to the number 8 spot with the Panthers so they could draft T-Mac, Tet McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. And it sounded more and more like that really was true. And apparently the Panthers uh, made an offer or a counter offer and made it so uh, they knew that the Rams weren't going to accept it, and they were hoping the Rams didn't accept it because they wanted to draft this guy. So I guess it is. I guess it is very possible. Well, let's just say it did happen. The Rams were trying to trade up for T Mac, and that really surprised me, but it appears to be the case. We all thought tight end, but maybe they knew they could get Ferguson later, and that's the way they were rolling. Emmanuel Forbes looking fabulous in camp, apparently. And, one of the things that surprised me the most in the draft was that they did not draft a cornerback. And maybe it's all about Forbes. Maybe they had a good enough look at Forbes last year, his college tape. This is a first round draft pick, remember, that they thought, you know what, let's forego drafting a cornerback. Let's get Forbes going. And so far, looking very promising. It's just OTAs. But, a lot of people say cornerback's the weakest group. I'd say maybe the weakest as far as the starters go, but overall the group has a lot of promise. And if Forbes can step up, man, we may have hit the jackpot claiming him on waivers. And Frank Ragnow, the center for the Lions, retires. And this is a pretty big deal because, hey, why don't these guys retire before the draft? Lions can't be happy about that. And I don't think they knew. Went back and looked at their draft. And remember, they lost Kevin Zeitler already. So they drafted his potential replacement, Tate Ratledge, offensive guard out of Georgia, in the second round. And then they drafted a guard in the fifth round. And then Ragnow retires. They lost their offensive coordinator along with their defensive coordinator. Can't be feeling good about the Jared Goff, I should say. Can't be feeling good about how that front five looks, and it's in the past been one of the best in the league. They lose, they have Penny Sewell, but they lose Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler. Maybe that's not a big deal. I'm no expert on the Lions, but they're going to have to find a replacement center, and already starting a rookie at right guard. And I wanted to talk about the Kyren extension. And if you listen to this channel or podcast, I like Kyren Williams more than most. I'm looking past the fumbles for now, and I think he's just an incredible running back, lacking in top end speed and breakaway capability. I get it, but I love the guy. That said, just doesn't make any sense for the Rams to give him an extension. Now, they're going to say all the right things. I get it. But with Blake Corum and Jarquez Hunter in camp, they're going to wait and see. I'm sorry, they're just going to wait and see, and Kyren's going to have to wait till maybe towards that bye week when the Rams even consider talking extension. That's what I think is going to happen. So, got through a lot there, and then I decided to revisit my power rankings. Just been stewing over a lot of things happening, and what I'm going to do here, I'm going to give you my power rankings, and I'm going to give you the one thing that could change the fortunes of these teams for better or for worse. And at 16, the 16th worst team in the NFC, I have the Saints. I've been talking about this. I love their coach hire, and I love their draft pick, Tyler Shug. And apparently he's been looking really well. So their new quarterback with Kellen Moore in the house, they could surprise us. Hopefully not when the Rams see him at SoFi. That's got to be a W for our Rams. But right now I have them at number 16. At number 15, I have the Panthers, and it's all about Bryce Young. If he can continue to improve, that's a no-brainer. Going to be talking about a lot of quarterbacks here. And number 14, the Giants, the same thing. Russell Wilson, I've seen him on decline. We saw it when he was in Seattle, didn't we? I thought I saw it. Maybe it was just when he played the Rams. The Rams really had his number. but I'm not feeling it for Russell Wilson and the Giants. Maybe Jackson Dart takes over, but I have a feeling they're going to be riding Russell Wilson for a little bit, and I would not be happy about that if I was a Giants fan. The Bears at number 13, who do you think this is about? It's about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson's ability to elevate his play, to get rid of the ball, quit getting sacked. It's not just the offensive line, it's his ability to play NFL caliber football, delivering the ball to number 1 and number 2 and number 3 receivers. So again, Caleb Williams. And number 12, I have the Seahawks, and I hate to say it because, I go back and forth on the Seahawks, but I think this is where they belong, number 12, and it's about their quarterback, Sam Darnold. If he's the Vikings Sam Darnold or the Sam Darnold we saw before he got to Minnesota, because before that he was fairly average, although I did want him as the Rams backup at one time, and it probably would have worked. But he's with Seattle now, and they are riding with him until Jalen Milroe is ready to go, is what I'm thinking. And the next group here at number 11, I have the Falcons. And, this is a team that I think could make a big leap. It's all about Michael Penix. Again, another quarterback. And number 10, the Cardinals, and they're a team that could go either direction. It's all about Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray is another quarterback I'm not thrilled with. I think Michael Penix will leap the Falcons over the Cardinals. But then again, the Cardinals, Jonathan Gannon trying to build a culture there, invested a bunch in the defense. If their defense starts playing better, then they have to improve a lot from what we saw last year. The Cardinals could be a threat, but Kyler Murray is either going to hold them back or maybe elevate them. At 9, I had the Vikings, and I dropped them a little bit compared to most other rankings I've seen. How can you rank the Vikings higher than 9 with a quarterback that hasn't taken a snap yet? It's got to be J.J. McCarthy, right? And number 8, I have the Cowboys. There's something about the Cowboys that, something doesn't smell right. And they're going to get extra love. George Pickens there. I would not want him in my clubhouse. Sorry. He's the type of guy that the Rams have no interest in, and there he is on the Cowboys. I don't think that's going to end well. And then the Buccaneers at number 7, just a solid team that just keeps rolling along. Love their quarterback. And next up, the Lions. I ding the Lions, dropping them to number 6 just due to what's happened with the offensive line, and then the coordinators now. Not something to really be concerned about if you're a Lions fan. I think they take a step back this year. And the 49ers at number 5, and a lot of respect for their roster. We all should have a lot of respect for their potential. And by the way, these rankings are not based on how I predict the season's going to end, because schedule is going to be a big part of that. I think the 49ers could end up with the 3rd or 4th or 1st or 2nd best record in the NFC without being the best team, just because of their schedule. Look at their schedule and you'll see what I'm talking about. And then I have the Commanders at number 4. Jaden Daniels, a lot of these quarterbacks, other teams get a read on rookie quarterbacks second time around. I don't think that's going to happen with Jaden Daniels. I think he's pretty special, and he's going to keep this team in the top 5, maybe underselling the Commanders a little bit. At number 3, I have the Packers, and I think the key with the Packers, I think I shouldn't say the season's going to necessarily ride on Matthew Golden, but he is a guy that could really solve some problems for this Packers team. Seems like they always have good receivers, but last year, a lot of drops, a lot of missed games, a little bit of clubhouse drama. Enter Matthew Golden, could be a really big deal. And then for the Rams, I got the Rams at number 2, and I think the key here is Devontae Adams. He could be the difference between this just being another really good Rams team that falls a little short, or a team that just steamrolls to the Super Bowl. It's as simple as that. If this is the Devontae Adams we are all hoping for, watch out NFC and watch out NFL. And number one, it's the Eagles, and the key player here. I was gonna say Jalen Hurts, but Barkley's on the Madden cover, and they're putting so much counting on him. So he's such a key player for this team, and he's probably one of the most important players in the entire NFL. And I don't believe in the curse, but if Barkley gets slowed down, if teams figure out how to slow him down, Jalen Hurts. I'm not sure if he's the same quarterback without that running game rolling like it is. So the Eagles have to hope that continues. Now, before I share one last thing, I forgot to share this stat. This is pretty amazing. The 33rd team shared this on X. Rookies with 8+ sacks and 45+ pressures since 2020. One of them's Micah Parsons. He's at the top, 13 sacks, 67 pressures. Next up is Aiden Hutchinson, 9.5 sacks and 53 pressures. And I'm not going to give you the numbers, but the other three guys, Braden Fisk, Byron Young, and Kobe Turner. That's pretty amazing. That's how good this young Rams defense could be. And missing from here, of course, is Jared Verse. Why? Because he had about 9 sacks slip out of his hands. That's why. And he got better as the year went on. But man, you consider those three guys plus Jared Verse, that's a pretty intimidating defensive front. And the one other thing I wanted to talk about, Rams related, Jalen Ramsey. I think the Rams are playing this smart. They waited till June 1st, June 2nd, see what's going to happen. Don't seem to be any other takers for Ramsey, so the Rams are gaining leverage. I don't think it's a big deal whether they add Ramsey or not. It would be a luxury, but I think the Rams would like to add him. And right now, they have the leverage. So maybe we see it happen. Maybe by the time you hear this or see this, Jalen Ramsey will be a Ram. Now, a lot of folks don't like it when I talk about something other than the NFL, but I'm going to do that right now because, yeah, you know what? It's a LA Rams YouTube channel and podcast. I get it, but we can't ignore other sports. I've been tracking college baseball playoffs pretty closely. But the two things happening this week we got to be aware of. My special assistant insisted that I remind everybody, Indiana Pacers, Oklahoma Thunder, NBA Finals. Doesn't sound like it'd be a marquee matchup, but the Pacers are an incredibly fun offense to watch. Halliburton, that dude is so much fun, so talented, passing, distributing the ball, the vision. And the Thunder, one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. They play lockdown defense. Worth a watch. And the NHL, Connor McDavid, man, if you watch hockey at all, check out Connor McDavid. I'm going to come out and say it right now. I'm going to get some hate mail for this. Connor McDavid is the greatest hockey player ever. And if you watch the Oilers for 5 or 10 minutes, it might become evident. And it's pretty tough for Oiler fans because, if he played for almost any other team, their fan base would be echoing what I'm saying. Connor McDavid is the best ever. But there's this other guy that played for them, Wayne Gretzky. So it's quite a dilemma if you're an Oiler fan. You don't want to necessarily make that argument. But, and I understand it's that same old argument. If Gordie Howe, some would argue, is the greatest player ever, how would he fare in the modern game? So it's a dicey argument. But Wayne Gretzky and Connor McDavid, I think you can make that comparison. And I think Connor McDavid is better. And that's all I'm going to say about that out here from Rams Up.